Most musicals are adaptations of one form or another: books, plays, TV shows, movies, or even real-life events. Which means that there's a high likelihood that you will at some point have to go through the process of taking a pre-existing story and adapting it into a stage musical. But we've also seen plenty of examples of how this process can, well, let's say, get off track. Yes, not naming any titles here, but there's quite a few. So, what does this process of adaptation look like, and how can you avoid the pitfalls as you go through your musical journey? Okay, let's assume that you have a story in mind that you want to adapt into a musical. And since we're focused on process today, I'm going to assume that you either already have the rights you need, or there are no rights to gather. Get the rights, my friends, please. Before you can do anything else, you need to know the basics. Number 1, why are you adapting this story? Number 2, why a stage musical? Number 3, what are you trying to say with your adaptation? Number 4, what do you want your audience to take away? And number 5, what perspective are you placing on the musical to make it theatrical and say something new or different? If you're in our community and you're thinking to yourself that a lot of these questions cross over with the questions in the North Star question sets, then you are 100% correct. They do. In fact, answering the entirety of the North Star question sets is probably your best first action step, and there is a link to download all of those questions for free in the link in the description below. These 5 questions are the barest basics that you need to know in order to take the next steps. Let's take a look. Number 1, why are you adapting this story? There's clearly something about this story that captured you and inspired you enough that you want to make a new version of it. So, what is that thing? The answer to this could be as simple as, well, this thing just screams musical theater, with reasons to back that up. Or it could be that the original version feels incomplete and you want to improve upon that story somehow. Whatever your reason for adapting is, please just make sure that it is more than, this is a popular title, or people love this brand, or I'm gonna make boatloads of money! There's nothing wrong with choosing properties that also have those thoughts attached, but if those are your sole reasons for choosing this property to adapt, then you'll probably find yourself either stuck or losing quality. Again, I'm not naming titles here, but I really want to. Number 2, why a stage musical? There are tons of ways to adapt stories without doing them on a stage live with sung music, so why is a musical your choice for the adaptation? What do you expect that sung music, live performance, and stagecraft are going to bring to the piece in order to uplift or enhance the story? Is there something missing from the original story that music will provide, or will the music help double down on something that's already there in the original version? Or is there freedom and flexibility that the musical stagecraft is going to be able to provide? Please just have good answers to this. Please. Number 3, what are you trying to say with your adaptation? Adaptations need to exist for a reason, and usually that reason has something to do with what the adapter wants to say by putting this piece on stage. This is also why we can have multiple adaptations of the same source material, because different writers have different things that they want to say and different messages they want to convey to the audience through the story. Essentially, anything you come up with here flies, but if you don't have an answer to this, or you think the original property is perfect as it is, well, then you might want to look for a different story to adapt. Number 4, what do you want your audience to take away? What is the main message you are attempting to convey to your audience with this adaptation? Sometimes this is a shift from the source material. Perhaps you see a perspective to place on the story that would provide very different messages from the original. Other times this is a narrowing down of messages from a story that is ultimately quite complicated and delivers more messages than a musical has the ability to do. And other times this aligns perfectly with the original material and nothing needs to change. Any and all are fine, just as long as you are aware. And number 5, what perspective are you placing on the story to make it theatrical and say something new or different? This could be looking at a story through the lens of a particular theme or through a different character's perspective, like Wicked. This could be placing a new story device or frame around the original, giving it some sort of new context. You could think of Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. Perhaps it's moving the story to a different time or place, but keeping the essentials of the original story, like West Side Story. Or perhaps it's relying on movement or music to storytell in a way that the original story was simply unable to do. What are you bringing to the story in this musical adaptation? Whew, okay, that was a lot of good work. We did it. What? That was only the preparation step? Now that we know the answers to the essential questions about the adaptation, we can take a look back at the original story and begin figuring out what we want to keep, what we don't need, and what might need to change or be added. How? The first thing to do is to take a look at the major pieces of the original story and, if you're anything like me, start making lists or creating visuals. You're going to need to know these 7 items. Number 1, when and where the story takes place. Number 2, the characters of the story and their journeys. Number 3, the major plot points or things that happen in the external world. Number 4, any major decisions and turning points, which is internal or character driven. Number 5, where is the inciting incident, if there is one. Number 6, where we begin versus where we end. Number 7, what the structure of the original story is, if it has one. You could dig deeper than these 7, but this is an excellent starting place. Then, to determine what you're keeping, leaving behind, adding, or changing, you now need to take this information and pop back up to your answers from those 5 questions from before. As you look across the lists from these 7 items, anything that seems to fit with your answers from above, enhancing, supporting, or just being within the bounds of those answers is likely material that you're going to want to keep, at least for now. Anything that doesn't fit with those answers is likely going to be unnecessary. You can always add them back in later, but for now, start planning without them. After seeing what you're keeping and what you're leaving behind, you should have a better idea about what holes there might be in the story that require new material, or what things might need to be altered or changed a little bit to fit with your version of this story. This is a great time to begin an outlining process, which will help you to visualize what this version of the story will look like. As long as you're always staying true to the vision that you laid out by answering those questions from before, then anything and everything you do in this process will remain consistent and well informed. And remember that you can always change your mind throughout the writing and development process. I mean, a show isn't frozen until someone literally tells you, stop writing, we have to do a thing now. From here, you're likely going to want to answer the rest of those North Star question sets from before and also begin the process of song spotting through your outline. And if you're not sure how to do that, then you should watch this video next. Otherwise, thank you all for being here with me today, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers!